I never thought I'd be the type of person who would say yes to a man dripping blood on my antique Persian rug. But there I was, needle still in hand, staring at Jin-Han, Koreatown's most dangerous son, while he made the most insane proposal I'd ever heard. Come to my ex-wife's wedding as my wife. 6 words that would unravel everything I thought I knew about safety, about boundaries, about the careful life I'd built stitch by careful stitch. The blood wasn't his, he'd explain later. That should have been my first warning. But I'm getting ahead of myself. 3 weeks before that moment, before the blood and the proposal and the lies that would feel dangerously close to truth, I was just Kimmy Wright, owner of Wright Bridal, the seamstress who could make any woman feel like royalty on her wedding day. I specialized in dreams, in transformations, in making the impossible fit perfectly. I had no idea I was about to become someone's impossible dream myself. If you've ever made a choice you knew would change everything, you'll understand why I didn't say no immediately, why I stood there calculating odds I had no business calculating. This is how it started. Not with love, with blood and betrayal and a wedding invitation that felt like a declaration of war. Before we dive into this story, do me a favor. If you're already hooked, hit that subscribe button right now. Seriously, these stories take time to craft, and your subscription tells me you want more. Plus, trust me, you don't want to miss what happens next. The betrayal, the danger, the moment everything falls apart, it's all coming. So subscribe, settle in, and let's get into how a seamstress and a mafia boss faked a marriage that became terrifyingly real. My atelier sits in a neighborhood where 3 worlds collide: Black excellence, Korean enterprise, and old money pretension. I'd built Wright Bridal in the space between all 3, serving brides who wanted something more than cookie-cutter dreams. Custom work, exclusively. No appointments without referrals. My waiting list stretched 8 months deep. I'd earned that waiting list. Every bead placed by hand, every seam invisible, every bride walking down the aisle in armor disguised as lace. The day Jin-Han walked into my shop, I was finishing a pearl-encrusted bodice for a senator's daughter. 1,200 pearls, each one hand-sewn. My fingers ached, but the work was meditation, control in a world that rarely offered it to women who looked like me. The bell above my door chimed. I didn't look up immediately. Clients learned quickly that I worked on my schedule, not theirs. "We're by appointment only," I said, needle steading. "Referrals required." "I don't have a referral." His voice was quiet, but it filled the space completely. Not loud, but impossible to ignore. "I have a problem only you can solve." I looked up then. Mistake number 1. Yi-han wasn't handsome in the conventional sense. Too sharp, too intense, too much danger in the set of his shoulders. But he had a presence, the kind that comes from real power, not inherited privilege. He wore a suit that probably cost more than my monthly rent, tailored perfectly to hide what I suspected were weapons and scars in equal measure. "I don't solve problems," I replied, returning to my pearls. "I make wedding dresses. If you need a gift for someone, there are boutiques down the street." "I need you to make a dress." He moved closer, each step deliberate. "For my wife." I glanced at his left hand. No ring, no tan line where a ring had been. "Congratulations on your upcoming marriage. Like I said, I'm booked 8 months out. I can recommend—" "I need it in 3 weeks." That made me laugh. Actually laugh. I don't care if you're the president himself. 3 weeks for a custom bridal gown is impossible. It takes that long just for the initial fittings and fabric selection. "I'll pay triple your rate." You could pay 10 times my rate. The answer is still no. I set down my needle, meeting his eyes directly. I don't rush perfection, not for anyone. Something shifted in his expression. Not anger, something else. Maybe respect. You're Kimmy Wright, he said, not a question. You built this business from nothing. 5 years ago, you were working in alterations at department stores. Now you dress governors' daughters and tech heiresses. You did that by being the best, by never compromising your standards. The fact that he'd researched me should have been a red flag. Instead, it was intriguing. Who are you? I asked, though I was beginning to suspect I knew. Jin-han, he extended his hand. And I need your help more than I've needed anything in a very long time. I didn't take his hand, not yet, but I didn't ask him to leave either. Kimmy stares at Yi-han's extended hand. The camera focuses on her face, curiosity warring with caution. What I didn't know then was saying yes would mean lying to everyone, including myself. Fade to Kimmy's hand slowly reaching toward him. He sat in the Louis XVI chair I kept for nervous mothers and overbearing future mothers-in-law. On Jin-han, the delicate furniture looked absurd, like caging a wolf in gilded filigree. 3 weeks from now, my ex-wife is getting married, he began. No preamble, all business. To Marcus Chen, you might know the name. I did. Everyone in Koreatown knew Marcus Chen. New money trying desperately to look like old money. Real estate development with rumors of less legitimate ventures underneath. I don't see what this has to do with me or a wedding dress. Marcus used to work for me. Johan's voice stayed level, but his hands tightened almost imperceptibly on the chair arms. He was my associate, my friend. I trusted him with everything, including access to my wife. The bitterness in that last word could have stripped paint. So your friend betrayed you, and now he's marrying your ex-wife. That's unfortunate, but again, Vivian didn't just leave me for him, he interrupted. His eyes held mine, and I saw something dangerous there. Not violence, but pain sharp enough to cut. She sold information about my business operations to Marcus, give him everything he needed to break away, take half my territory, and make me look weak in front of every family from here to San Francisco. Now we are getting to the truth. This wasn't about lost love. It was about lost power. The wedding is a message, he continued. Marcus showed everyone that he didn't just take my territory, he took my wife. Made me look like a fool who couldn't keep his own house in order. I should have asked him to leave then, should have recognized the danger of getting involved in Mafia power plays. Instead, I found myself asking, what exactly do you need from me? I need a wife, he said. It's simply like ordering coffee. I need to walk into that wedding with someone so impressive that everyone stops questioning my judgment. Someone who makes Vivian look like a fool for leaving. Hire an escort. I'm sure you know plenty. An escort looks desperate, like I'm trying too hard. He leaned forward. But you're legitimate, successful. You built something real, and you're beautiful in a way that doesn't seem bought. The compliment shouldn't have affected me. It was manipulation, clear and simple. But something in the way he said it, matter-of-fact rather than flattering, made it land differently. You want me to pretend to be your wife at your ex-wife's wedding in 3 weeks? Yes. That's insane. Probably. I don't even know you. We have 3 weeks to fix that. I stood up, ready to show him out, ready to return to my safe, controlled world of pearls and lace and other people's happily ever after. Then he named a figure that would cover my atelier's rent for a year. That's just for showing up, he added. Play the part convincingly, and I'll double it. I should have said no, but I've always been too curious for my own good. Tell me more, I heard myself say. Close up on Kimmy's face as realization dawns. Her voice narrates. I'd made deals before, with fabric suppliers, with demanding clients, with landlords and banks, but I'd never negotiated with the devil. I didn't know the cost would be so much higher than money. Cut to Johan standing, extending his hand again. Our first date happened 2 days later at a restaurant so exclusive it didn't have a name, just an address whispered between people who mattered. Johan picked me up personally. No driver, no entourage, just him in a black sedan that probably cost more than my entire inventory. First rule, he said as we drove. We met 4 months ago at a charity gala for the Korean American Arts Foundation. You were there representing local artisans. Was I? You were. I checked. You donated a custom veil for their auction. He glanced at me. You do that often, donate your work. Why? The question caught me off guard. Most people never asked about the charity pieces. Because I remember what it's like to need help and have no one offer it, I said honestly. When I was starting out, trying to get my business licensed, dealing with zoning boards that didn't want a bridal shop in that kind of neighborhood, I stopped myself. You didn't ask for my life story. I did, actually. His voice was softer. If we're going to convince people we're married, I need to know you. Really know you. Not just the script we're selling. We pulled up to the restaurant. Valet parking, subtle security, the kind of place where power brokers made deals over 12-course tasting menus. Inside, Johan transformed. Not dramatically, but noticeably. His hand found the small of my back, warm and possessive. He introduced me to people whose names I recognized from news articles, as his wife. Not his girlfriend, not his fiancée, his wife. We eloped 3 months ago, he explained smoothly to a city councilman and his wife. Kimmy didn't want the fuss of a big wedding, ironic considering her profession. I played along, adding details about a simple ceremony in Big Sur, just us and the ocean. The lies came easier than they should have. But the real test came when Mrs. Jin arrived. Johan's mother was formidable, elegant, cold-eyed, assessing me the way a jeweler evaluates a suspect diamond. She spoke to her son in rapid Korean, too fast for me to catch more than a few words, but I caught the tone, disapproval, sharp and cutting. My mother is concerned I married someone she didn't vet, someone outside our community. I gathered that. Though I suspect her concern is less about my profession and more about my melanin levels. Johan choked on his water. His mother's expression didn't change, but something flickered there. Surprise, maybe. You speak directly, she said in perfect English. Most women try to charm me, pretend they don't notice my disapproval. I'm not most women, and I don't have time for games. I kept my voice level. Polite, but firm. Your son married me. You can accept that or not. Either way, I'm not going anywhere. The lie tasted strange, because sitting there, trading barbs with Mrs. Jin while Johan's hand stayed warm against my back, it almost felt true. Mrs. Jin smiled, thin, calculating, but genuine. Perhaps my son chose better than I thought. The camera lingers on Johan's face as he watches Kimmy handle his mother. Something shifts in his expression, respect becoming something more dangerous. That was the night everything changed, when pretending started feeling like practice for something real. Fade to Johan's apartment door opening. After dinner, Johan drove me to his penthouse. We need to go over our story in more detail, he explained. And you should see where I live, Vivian will ask. She always does. His apartment was exactly what I expected and nothing like it at the same time. Yes, it was luxurious, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, furniture that whispered wealth, but it was also sparse, almost empty. like a hotel room rather than a home. You don't actually live here, I observed. You exist here. There's a difference. He poured 2 glasses of whiskey without asking if I wanted one. Observant. It's my job. I look at people and see what they're not saying. I accepted the glass. Your apartment says you don't trust anyone enough to let them see who you really are. Maybe there's nothing to see. Everyone has something to see. You just hide it better than most. He settled onto the couch, and for the first time since we met, he looked tired. Not physically, but the bone-deep exhaustion of carrying too much alone for too long. Vivian and I got married young. I was 24, still proving myself to the families, still building my reputation. She was beautiful, connected, exactly what I needed for the image I was creating. Did you love her? I thought I did. He stared into his whiskey. Or maybe I loved what she represented. Legitimacy, acceptance, someone from my world who chose me despite my occupation. When did you realize she was betraying you? 6 months before she left. I found encrypted messages on her phone, meetings with Marcus I didn't know about, financial records she shouldn't have had access to. His jaw tightened. I confronted her. She cried, apologized, swore it meant nothing, said Marcus was just helping her understand my business so she could be a better partner to me. You believed her. I wanted to believe her. The distinction mattered. So I ignored the evidence, ignored my instincts, made myself vulnerable because that's what love required. I understood that particular flavor of betrayal, the kind where you betray yourself first by ignoring what you know to be true. 3 months later, she was gone, took half my client list, my financial records, my business strategies, handed them to Marcus like a dowry. Johan finally looked at me. The wedding isn't just about them getting married, it's Marcus parading his victory, showing everyone that Jin-Johan can be beaten, can be made a fool. So you need me to prove you've moved on, that you're not sitting at home pining for her. I need you to prove I upgraded, that leaving me was the biggest mistake of Vivian's life. The intensity in his gaze made my breath catch. This was still pretend, still a transaction, but the way he looked at me didn't feel transactional. We should practice, I said, my voice not quite steady. Practice what? Being married, how we touch each other, how we look at each other. I set down my glass. Married couples have a language. We need to learn to speak it. Johan stood slowly, closing the distance between us. Show me, he said. Extreme close-up of Kimmy's hand reaching for Johan's face. The camera captures the moment before touch, hesitation, anticipation, the space between performance and reality. Teaching someone to fake intimacy is like teaching someone to fake drowning. Eventually, you forget you're pretending. Cut to their hands intertwining. The next 2 weeks blurred together. For days, I worked on the dress I was supposedly making for myself, the costume for our performance. At night, Johan and I rehearsed being in love. We learned each other's words, how I twisted my bracelet when nervous, how his left eyebrow raised microscopically when he was lying, how I took my coffee, how he couldn't sleep without white noise. Small intimacies that shouldn't have mattered, but somehow did. Your turn, Johan said one evening, sprawled on my atelier couch while I fitted my wedding dress on the mannequin. Tell me something true, something no one else knows. I should have deflected. Keep it professional, keep it safe. Instead, I found myself answering honestly. When I was 16, my mother told me I'd never amount to anything. Those black girls from our neighborhood who had dreams bigger than their circumstances were just setting themselves up for disappointment. I adjusted a seam, not looking at him. She said it to protect me, I think, so failure wouldn't hurt as much. Did it work? No, it just made me more determined to prove her wrong. I finally met his eyes. I haven't spoken to her in 3 years. She doesn't even know I own this place. Do you regret that? The distance? Every day. But I regret more what it would cost me to go back. The shrinking, apologizing for taking up space. Some prices are too high, even for families. Johan was quiet for a long moment. Then, my father wanted me to be a doctor, respectable, legitimate. He died still ashamed of what I became. Are you ashamed? Of disappointing him? Yes. Of what I built? No. His voice was firm. I provide for my community, protect our businesses, make sure the Korean families in this city have power in rooms that used to exclude us. The methods might be questionable, but the results matter. That's how you justify it. That's how I sleep at night. We were both quiet then, recognizing something in each other. We'd both chosen power over approval, success over belonging. We'd both paid for it in loneliness. Ray, Johan's second in command, stopped by later that week when I was doing a final fitting. He looked between us with knowing eyes. Boss, we got confirmation. Vivian's wedding planner sent the seating chart. You're at table 12, back of the room, next to her cousin who's in rehab and her uncle who got divorced 3 times. Johan's expression didn't change, but I felt the tension radiate off him. The disrespect is intentional, Ray continued. She wants you to feel small. I want everyone to see where she put you. After Ray left, I made a decision. Change of plans, I said. I'm not just coming as your wife. I'm coming as the woman who made Vivian Park realize she downgraded. Johan smiled, really smiled, and it was dangerous. What did you have in mind? I promised. You'll see. He did. That was the problem. We were both starting to trust this lie more than the truth. The camera pans across Kimmy's workspace, fabric swatches, sketches, a dress taking shape that's more armor than gown. Kimmy's voice narrates, I'd spent my career making women feel powerful on their wedding days. I'd never made myself the weapon before. Fade to a garment bag, the dress hidden inside. Cut to Johan's face as he sees her for the first time, ready for battle. The night before the wedding, Johan came to my apartment, not the atelier, my actual home. Another boundary crossed. I'd been avoiding showing him the dress. Some superstitious part of me is treating this fake wedding like it was real. But we needed to make sure everything worked together. His suit, my dress, the story we were selling. Close your eyes, I said, suddenly nervous in a way I hadn't been in years. When I emerged from my bedroom, the dress moved like water, midnight blue silk. Not white, never white for a fake wedding, with hand-beaded crystals that caught the light like stars. It was elegant, expensive, and utterly devastating. I designed it to make people stop and stare, to make them recalculate everything they thought they knew about Kinney Wright. You can look now. Johan opened his eyes, and whatever careful control he'd maintained for 3 weeks cracked just slightly. Kimmy. My name. Just my name, but the way he said it felt like a prayer and a curse at once. Too much? I asked, though I knew it wasn't. Not nearly enough. He crossed to me slowly. You're going to walk into that wedding and show them exactly what they're missing, including mine. Your heart isn't part of this contract. No, he agreed, his hand coming up to trace my collarbone, barely touching. But I'm beginning to think I should have included a clause about that. The air between us changed, charged, dangerous. We should practice, I whispered. How we'll act tomorrow, how married couples touch. We've practiced. Not like this, not when it matters. His hand slid to my waist, pulling me closer. Tell me to stop, Kimmy. Tell me this is just business. I should have maintained the boundary between performance and reality. Instead, I tilted my face up to his. Show me how Jin Johan kisses his wife. What happened next wasn't gentle. It was 3 weeks of tension, of pretending, of dancing around the truth that we'd both been feeling. His mouth on mine was claiming and desperate and achingly real. When we finally broke apart, both breathing hard, the truth sat heavy between us. "Tomorrow," I started. "Tomorrow we will walk into that wedding and show them exactly what they're missing," Johan finished. His thumb brushed my cheek. "But tonight, right now, can we stop pretending this is fake?" I should have said no, should have protected myself the way I'd learned to protect myself after years of building walls. Instead, I kissed him again. We didn't sleep that night. We talked instead, trading truths in the dark like sacred things. About his first kill, accidental, defensive, still haunting. About my first failed business, the shame of crawling back to alterations work. About the people we'd been before ambition hardened us. By dawn, something had shifted irrevocably between us. "Kimmy," Johan said as the sunrise painted my bedroom gold. "After tomorrow, after the wedding, I want—" His phone rang, the ringtone that meant emergency. Ray's voice came through tight with urgency. "Boss, we have a problem." Close up on Johan's face as he listens, his expression turning from soft to stone. Kimmy watches the transformation, realizing she's seeing the real Johan, the dangerous one. I'd forgotten that I'd made a deal with a monster, that tenderness doesn't erase what someone's capable of. Cut to Johan grabbing his gun from his jacket. The screen goes black except for the sound of a safety clicking off. "Marcus knows," Ray said without preamble. "About Kimmy, about the fake marriage. Vivian told him everything." The warmth drained from Johan's face. In its place, something cold and calculating emerged. This was the man who'd built an empire through ruthlessness. "How?" he asked, voice deadly calm. "Your mother, she mentioned your elopement to Mrs. Park at their book club. Mrs. Park told Vivian. Vivian did the math, realized the timeline was convenient. Too convenient. She had you investigated." I felt the blood drain from my face. What does that mean for tomorrow? Johan ignored me, still focused on Ray. What's Marcus planning? "He's going to expose you, at the wedding, in front of everyone. Prove you're so desperate you hired a fake wife. Make you look pathetic. The humiliation would be complete. Everything we'd planned turned against us." "We don't go," I said quickly. "We canceled. There's no point now." "No." His voice was steel. "We go exactly as planned." "Are you insane? He knows it's fake." "He knows we started fake." Johan finally looked at me, and his eyes were blazing. "But what we are now? That's real, Kimmy, isn't it?" The question hung between us, terrifying in its honesty. Before I could answer, his door exploded inward. 3 men, guns drawn, Marcus's people. Everything happened in seconds that felt like hours. Johan pushed me behind him, a weapon materializing from somewhere I hadn't seen. Ray returned fire from the hallway. The sound was deafening, thunderous, nothing like movies. When it ended, 2 men were down. The third had fled, and Johan was bleeding from his shoulder, crimson spreading across his white shirt. "Just a grace," he said, though his face had gone pale. "Ray, clean this up. Kimmy, sit down before you fall down." I was already moving, grabbing towels, my hands shaking but steady enough. Years of precise needlework meant I didn't flinch at blood. I pressed the towel to his wound. "You need a hospital." "Can't. Questions. Police." He caught my wrist with his good hand. "I'm sorry. I brought this into your life. You should go. Walk away. Forget you ever met me." "Don't be stupid." I applied more pressure, making him wince. We're going to that wedding, both of us, because Marcus doesn't get to win. Kimmy, you said what we have is real. Were you lying? No. The word was raw. God help me, no. This is the realest thing in my life right now. Then we finish this, together. I met his eyes. But after tomorrow, we have a very long conversation about what real means when one person is a mafia boss and the other person is just trying not to get killed. Despite everything, he laughed. Just trying not to get killed? That's the bar we're setting? Right now, yes. Ray returned, already making calls for cleanup. Boss, we need to move you, and we need to assume Marcus will try again before the wedding. Johan stood, steadier than he should have been. Then we move up the timeline. Kimmy, how fast can you be ready? For what? To get married, for real this time. His eyes held mine. My heart was pounding. You're asking me to actually marry you, right now, while you're bleeding. I'm asking you to make this real, to choose this, choose me. He swayed slightly, and I caught him. I know it's insane. I know I have no right to ask, but Kimmy, I don't want to pretend anymore. Extreme close-up on Kimmy's face, fear and desire warring in her expression. The camera pulls back to show Johan waiting, bleeding, desperate. Every woman has a moment when she has to choose between a safe life and the real one, between protection and passion. I'd chosen safety once before. It had left me empty. Cut to Kimmy's hand reaching for Johan's face, her thumb wiping blood from his cheek. Fade to black, the sound of a car engine starting. We got married at 3 a.m. in a courthouse that owed Johan favors. The judge was half asleep. Ray and his girlfriend were our witnesses. I wore jeans and the sweater I'd grabbed from my apartment. Johan's shoulder was bandaged beneath his jacket, blood seeping through slowly. It was the opposite of every wedding I'd ever designed. No flowers, no music, no guests in designer gowns. Just two people choosing each other in the fluorescent-lit pragmatism of a government building. But when Johan slid the ring on my finger, a simple platinum band he'd somehow produced from somewhere, my hands shook. I, Jin-Johan, take you, Kimmy Wright, to be my lawfully wedded wife. His voice was steady despite the pain he had to be in. To have and to hold, from this day forward, for better, for worse, for richer, for poorer, in sickness and in health, until death do us part. Death felt closer than usual at that moment. When it was my turn, I looked into the eyes of a man I'd known for 3 weeks, a man who'd brought violence into my life, who'd made me lie, who'd given me more truth than most people managed in years. I, Kimmy Wright, take you, Jin-Johan. My voice caught. This is insane. You know that, right? He smiled. Completely. We could both die tomorrow. Possibly. I might be making the worst decision of my life. Probably. His hand tightened on mine. But you're making it anyway. Why? Because I'd spent my whole life being careful, building my business stitch by careful stitch, protecting myself from risk, from passion, from anything that might unravel the control I'd fought so hard to maintain. And for what? A beautiful, empty atelier and a life half-lived? Because I'm tired of being safe, I said honestly, and because you see me, really see me, not the business I built or the image I project, me. We finished the vows, signed the papers, became legally bound to each other while Ray kept watch for any of Marcus's men who might have followed us. In the car afterward, Johan's head dropped to my shoulder. The adrenaline was fading, pain setting in. I need to tell you something. Before tomorrow. Before you're in too deep. I'm already in too deep. deeper then. He took a shaky breath. The night Vivian left, I found out she was pregnant with Marcus's child. She'd been sleeping with him for months, and I'd been too blind to see it, too trusting. The wound beneath the wound. Not just betrayal, but the family he'd almost had stolen. She terminated the pregnancy after she left. Didn't want Marcus's bastard, she said. Just wanted his empire. His voice was hollow. That's what broke me. Not the business betrayal. That she'd gotten pregnant with his child while still in my bed, then discarded even that without a second thought. I understood then why this mattered so much, why he needed to walk into that wedding and prove he'd survived, that he'd found something real after so much calculated fakeness. Johan, I turned his face to mine. Tomorrow, we will show them exactly what they lost, both of them. We show them that love, real love, is more powerful than strategy. Is that what this is? Love? I should have hedged. I should have protected myself. I don't know yet, I answered honestly, but I know it's real, and I know I choose you, monster and man, both. He kissed me then, soft and desperate, and tasting of blood and truth. The camera lingers on their marriage certificate, Kimmy's signature next to Johan's. Fresh blood smears one corner. Some people spend years building toward their wedding day. We had 12 hours to prepare for war. Cut to dawn breaking over the city. Kimmy's blue dress hangs like armor. Johan loading his gun. The invitation, gold embossed and mocking. Fade to the venue entrance. Luxury and danger combined. Heavy footsteps approaching. The sound of a door opening. I've been to hundreds of weddings. I'd dressed the brides, calmed their nerves, sent them down the aisle toward their futures. I'd never walked into one as both a guest and a threat. The venue was exactly what I expected. Vivian had taste, I'd give her that. White orchids, crystal chandeliers, enough elegant restraint to scream old money. The kind of wedding that cost more than most people's houses. Johan's hand was steady on my back as we entered, despite the bandages I'd rewrapped myself that morning. His suit hid the wound perfectly. I'd made sure of that. We were fashionably late, intentionally late. Late enough that everyone was already seated, waiting for the ceremony to begin. Late enough that our entrance would be noticed. The room fell silent as we walked in. I'd designed my dress for this moment. Midnight blue silk, crystals catching the light, elegant and understated and utterly devastating. Next to Vivian's white lace confection, it was modern sophistication versus traditional beauty. Different leagues entirely. Heads turned. Whispers started. I saw the exact moment Vivian's mother recognized me, saw her lean over to whisper urgently to Mrs. Jin, who smiled that dangerous smile I'd seen at our first dinner. We didn't head to table 12. Instead, Johan led us to the front row. The seats were reserved for his family. "You can't sit there," an usher stammered. "Those are for my son and his wife," Mrs. Jin said crisply, materializing beside us. She'd chosen sides, publicly, deliberately. "I believe there was a seating error. This has been corrected." The power play was magnificent. Vivian couldn't object without causing a scene at her own wedding, but the message was clear. Jean Johan was not relegated to the back, not anymore. Marcus stood at the altar, face reddening. He whispered something to his best man, who immediately headed toward us. "Mr. Jin, there seems to be a misunderstanding." Johan pulled out his phone, pulled up a document, and handed it to the man without a word. Our marriage certificate, dated yesterday, legal, binding, and completely demolishing Marcus's planned exposure. I watched the realization spread through the room as phones buzzed, as the best man returned to Marcus, as Vivian emerged from her bridal suite and saw us sitting front row, Johan's arm possessively around my waist. She looked beautiful, objectively, perfectly beautiful in her designer gown, but next to the rage in her eyes, the beauty felt hollow. The ceremony began. I should have felt triumphant. We'd won. We'd outplayed them. Instead, I felt Johan's hand tighten on mine as Vivian walked down the aisle toward Marcus, felt the tremor in his fingers that spoke of old wounds and fresh resolve. "You okay?" I whispered. "Better than okay." He turned to look at me and his eyes were clear. I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. The officiant began. "Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today." The doors exploded inward. Federal agents poured in, weapons drawn, voices shouting, "Jin-Han, you're under arrest for racketeering, money laundering, and conspiracy to commit murder. Marcus Chen, you're under arrest for..." The rest was chaos. Screaming, running, Johan being pulled from his seat, from my arms, his eyes never leaving mine. "Kimmy!" he shouted over the chaos. "The envelope! In my jacket! Read it!" Then he was gone, swallowed by federal agents and handcuffs and the collapse of everything we'd built. I stood there in my blue dress, hand trembling as I reached into the jacket he'd left on his chair. Inside was an envelope, addressed to me in his handwriting, and a USB drive labeled "Everything Marcus and Vivian did, everything they took, evidence." I looked up to find Vivian staring at me across the chaos, her wedding ruined, her triumph destroyed. Marcus was being handcuffed beside her, screaming about lawyers. Johan had known, had planned this, had brought the evidence that would take them both down, even knowing it would mean his own arrest. He'd chosen truth over freedom, chosen justice over safety, chosen me over escape. Mrs. Jin appeared at my elbow. "My daughter-in-law, we need to go now, before they start asking you questions." "But Johan made his choice, now you make yours." Her eyes were sharp, assessing. "Will you run, or will you fight for him the way he fought for you?" I looked down at the envelope in my hands, the marriage certificate now crumpled in my purse, in the blue dress I'd designed as armor. "I'm not running." Mrs. Jin smiled. "Good. Then let me introduce you to our family's lawyers. You're going to need them." As federal agents swarmed the venue, as Vivian screamed and Marcus cursed, and wedding guests fled in designer confusion, I stood my ground. I'd made a deal with a monster, married him in a courthouse at 3 a.m., walked into a wedding as his wife and his weapon. Now I'd see it through, whatever came next. Because some bonds, even ones forged in lies, become unbreakable when tested by truth. The question wasn't whether I'd fight for Jin-Han. The question was how far I'd go. And standing there, envelope in hand, wedding in ruins around me, I realized I was about to find out exactly what kind of woman I'd become. So there I was, 3 weeks after accepting the most insane proposal of my life, standing in the ruins of someone else's wedding, holding evidence that could destroy empires, married to a man I barely knew, but somehow understood completely. Jin-Han had walked into my shop asking for the impossible: a dress in 3 weeks, a wife for 1 day, a performance convincing enough to fool everyone. What he got instead was me, really me, not the polished businesswoman who never made mistakes, not the careful perfectionist who measured everything twice, but the woman underneath, the one who'd been waiting her whole life to choose something reckless and real. The federal agents led him away in handcuffs, but his eyes never left mine. In them I saw no regret, just a question: will you wait for me? I looked down at the platinum band on my finger, at the marriage certificate that made this charade legal, at the envelope that held secrets I hadn't yet opened. Mrs. Jin was already on the phone with lawyers, Ray was coordinating damage control, Vivian was screaming at Marcus, their perfect wedding destroyed by the truth they'd tried so hard to bury. And me, I was calculating. Not odds this time, but something else entirely. How deep I was willing to go, how far I'd fight, what I was willing to sacrifice for a man I'd known for 21 days and married twice. Some love stories start with flowers and first dates. Ours started with lies and blood and a fake marriage that became the most real thing in both our lives. The question wasn't whether I loved Jin-han. Love was too simple a word for what we'd built, too clean for something forged in desperation and sealed with danger. The question was, what kind of woman had I become? The kind who stands her ground when everyone else runs. The kind who chooses truth even when lies are safer. The kind who made a deal with a monster and discovered he was just a man who'd been betrayed one too many times. I opened the envelope. Inside, a letter in Johan's handwriting. Kimmy, if you're reading this, everything has gone exactly as planned. I'm sorry I couldn't warn you. I'm sorry I brought you into this war. But I'm not sorry I chose you. Whatever happens next, remember, we made this real. That matters more than anything else. The USB drive has everything the feds need to take down Marcus and Vivian. Give it to them. Clear my name if you can. If you can't, just remember me as the man who saw you and chose you anyway. You deserved better than a fake marriage and a real arrest. But you're all I have that's worth fighting for. Wait for me if you can. If you can't, I understand. Just know that these 3 weeks were the realest thing in my life. Thank you for saying yes to an insane proposal. Thank you for making me believe in something beyond power and revenge. Thank you for being exactly who you are. Always, Johan. I folded the letter carefully, slipped it into my purse next to our marriage certificate, and made my choice. Mrs. Jin approached, her expression unreadable. So, daughter-in-law, what will you do? I looked at the chaos around me, at the wedding that would make headlines, at the life I'd built that would never be the same. I'm going to fight, I said simply. For him, for us, for the truth. She smiled. Really smiled. Good, then let's begin. Now, here's my question for you. If someone offered you everything you wanted, but it meant risking everything you'd built, would you take the deal? Would you choose safety or would you choose real? Drop your answer in the comments below. I want to know, are you team play it safe or team risk it all for something real? And while you're down there, tell me, should Kimmy fight for Johan or walk away? What would you do in her position? If this story grabbed you, if you need to know what happens next, if you're invested in whether Kimmy and Johan survive this mess, hit that subscribe button right now. Because this is just the beginning. The real story, the fight, the secrets on that USB drive, whether their marriage survives when everything comes to light, that's all coming. Don't be the person who misses out. Subscribe, turn on notifications, and let's see just how far love forged in lies can go when tested by truth.